And then I asked my dad, I go, but please tell me he didn't take money from you. And my dad goes, don't worry about that right now. And then I was just on the floor screaming. Like, this is my family. This is my family. And he said, listen, Onyeka, I'm a man that's found a lot of success in my life. I have $1.5 million worth of cars. I have $500,000 worth of watches. This man had to work hard to pull one over on me. He said, I have loaded guns in every single room in my house. I didn't know if this man was a part of a group. And I asked him, I go, why didn't you bring this up to me? He goes, well, Onyeka, you're Nigerian. Like, that's a scamming capital of the world. I didn't know if you were in on it. And that's when the irony hit me. I'm Nigerian and I'm a proud Nigerian. I tell people it's my biggest flex. But the country's not perfect. We have our strengths, we have our weaknesses. But one of our weaknesses is that there's a ton of scammers. Versus Denmark, who's considered to be this prestigious, wealthy, happy country. So the fact that a Danish man pulled this over on a Nigerian, or Nigerians collectively, it just blew my mind.
Screw it, I'm gonna go to Monaco. I go to Barcelona to meet up with some friends. We're gonna go to Brazil. And he's like, well, let's do Paris. And I said, okay. We ended up going to Cabo for one of my childhood friends' wedding. I board a flight and I head to Denmark for the first time. We hop on a flight to go to Nigeria. Already have plans to go to Budapest for New Year's. So we went to Cartagena, Colombia, and it was a very affordable trip. And then we had gone to Key West. We did Miami and Key West with his mom. We weren't just going to Spain. We were also going to go to see his family in Denmark. And then we were also going to go to Portugal for 2 days. I know a lot of you are thinking, like, how are you traveling? He was making a very steady income. I wanted to take a moment to address a very hot take, which is the trips. And let me start by saying that I completely understand where all of you are coming from. If I was on the outside looking in, I would be like, why are y'all taking these trips when you owe these people money? I was a big traveler long before I met my ex. Because it was such a big passion of mine, I decided to try to make it into a business. And I started a travel blog called The Roaming Realtor. This blog was actually started just 2 months before I found out about the gambling addiction and the money owed to crypto and crypto's wife, which I hear you guys are now calling her Cryptisha. And let me just say, I love that. As most of you can recall, before we went to Colombia, we went to crypto's house so that my ex could make amends. And at that time, I told them both about the travel blog that I had already invested thousands of dollars into, and told them that if they were not comfortable with us traveling, we would not do that because I did not want to be disrespectful to them. And they made it very clear that they wanted to support this business venture. And they also did not want me to stop living my life because of the mistakes made by my ex. Something else to keep in mind is that I work very, very hard for my money, and a majority of these trips were funded by me with my own funds. We came up with a payment plan that was agreed on by everyone involved, and they were fully aware of our travels, and they were 100% okay and comfortable with it. I am still very good friends with crypto and crypto's life to this day. I'm so grateful for them, and I hope this clears the air for all of you. As most of you are aware of, I made the grave mistake of marrying a professional international criminal con artist, and I wanted to share with you guys the lessons I have learned. Lesson number 1, don't be too trusting. Trust should be earned and not given out like free samples. It's okay to give someone the benefit of the doubt, but what you cannot do is give someone blind access to your resources, your life, or your heart without them showing signs of consistency. Number 2, love should never override your instincts. There were so many times where my subconscious was telling me, this is a red flag, you're making the wrong decision, but I allowed my love for this man to override my best judgment, and I will never let that happen again. Number 3, never allow yourself to be isolated from your friends and family. That is something manipulators will do. They do it to their benefit. They're trying to blind you, and they're trying to make you easier to manipulate and exploit. Number 4, financial transparency is a non-negotiable. If you share your life with someone and you need to know aspects about their finances and they're getting cagey and they're getting defensive, that is a red flag. Number 5, charm is not character. Oftentimes, con artists and manipulators, what they do is they act very confident and charismatic and impressive, but this is not character, it's a performance. You learn someone's true character from consistency, transparency, and how they behave after they receive your trust. And number 6, if someone asks you to pick out whatever you want, let them buy you the damn bag.
So I wanted to respond real quickly to this viral love story gone wrong, Swirler saga that has been making its rounds across the internet over the last few days. And just a brief recap for those of you guys who are not aware, this story is called The Danish Deception, and it's basically about a former bachelorette alumni who fell head over heels and got into a whirlwind romance with a guy who ended up being this international con artist. And the story begins with them meeting on a trip in Croatia, and then they continue flirting on social media. She gets flued out to Europe at one point and has a lavish vacation early on in the relationship. And then I think within a matter of 3 or 4 months, he ends up going out to Dallas, and then they end up eloping and having a private ceremony. She doesn't really tell her parents. She does have a Nigerian background, so he doesn't ask for her hand in marriage. She doesn't really tell anybody. They get married privately so that they can be together. And then the plan was for them to later on have a real wedding with family and friends involved. But, nevertheless, as that continues, as they are engaged in planning their life together, then things start to happen. He starts to ask for money, and then more money, and all these things start adding up. And then through a series of events, a friend admits to her that he has a gambling addiction. And even though she finds out she has a gambling addiction, she still goes on to marry him in hopes that he would change. And again, through a series of more events and more lies and more things not adding up, she goes on to find out that not only did he have a gambling addiction, it's continued. He owes hundreds of thousands of dollars to multiple people, including her own blood family and her sister. And she also finds out that he had been cheating with her earlier on in the relationship. So it just ultimately goes from bad to worse, and she realizes it was just a total incomplete scam. Although she has gotten a lot of pushback, I do applaud her for sharing her story, because it takes a lot of courage to come online and share your mistakes and the things that you may be embarrassed or ashamed of. And hindsight is always 20/20. So I do want to acknowledge her for that. And the story and the conversation that she's opened up. The primary thing that I want to focus on with this video is one big reason he was able to carry on this way is likely because he's white, of Danish descent. And she mentioned in many of her videos that he was her dream man. And let's just be honest, many women are not quick to want to give up a dream, especially if it's a good one. They're going to want to fight for it. So I'm sure there's probably an aspect of her who wanted to hold on and wanted to believe the good. I mean, this is why she continued to stay in the relationship even after he lied multiple times and moved forward with the marriage. And, the situation really only ended after he walked out on her. And she actually alluded to this in the video earlier on, where she said she had this aha moment where she realized that here is this Danish man who came from this prestigious country, that's, known for having all of this money, and it's safe, and, everything is sophisticated. And she's coming from a country or a background that is known to be full of con artists and scammers. And she's the one getting scammed, not only her, but her family. And she had this aha moment of being like, wow, this is crazy. But many people, much of the criticism that she got, including from other Nigerians, was the way in which they noticed the sense of awe and the sense of adoration and admiration she had for his Danish background. She had for him being, blonde, and the ways in which she was willing to break multiple of her own rules and cross many of her own boundaries to continue in this relationship, going as far as to marry a man without even involving her parents or telling her family, or presumably even involving anybody from her church. She mentioned being a Christian, but much of the decisions that she made were in secret and were done outside of the natural protection of her own community. So it's clear she really wanted this to be what he said it was. And also the way in which she was very quick to trust this particular man, his beliefs about him being of royal lineage, his belief about him being an Olympian, the way in which she easily trusted this man. And that trust would not have been given to a man who was of Nigerian descent. Let's just be honest. So I think these kinds of examples are just perfect case studies or perfect reminders on how dating standards are oftentimes very different. I've talked about this in the past, how I truly believe that Black women, whether it's even conscious or subconscious, can have a way of being a lot more lenient or a lot more trusting of men of other cultures, because they may look at other cultures as being safe, as being inherently good, as being inherently trustworthy. There is not the same scrutiny. There's not the same scrutiny, and there's not the same natural distrust that some Black women have for non-Black men, the way that they have for the men of their own culture. And there could be different reasons for this. You know, sometimes they say the grass is greener on the other side. Obviously, white men or white masculinity just obviously has a much better representation. But I do think, even based upon what she said and based upon what she admitted, if this man had been Nigerian, if he had tried this as a Nigerian man, her and all of her family would have done their due diligence. But he was able to get away with this because he was a foreigner, and they assumed that he wasn't a scammer because of his background. And I think that's pretty obvious. So I have more to say on that, but I don't want to keep this video really long. I do applaud her for sharing her story. I do know it did take a lot of courage to come out and, you know, share her mistakes. She has gotten a ton of negative feedback, more so than what I was actually anticipating, and maybe even more so than what she was anticipating. I will cover that off in another video, but I do think it's good that she, you know, shared her truth, and hopefully she's able to learn from this. But anyways, what do you guys think about this whole story? Let me know your comments down in the comment section. Thank you so much for listening if you've gotten this far, and stay tuned for updates.